Z. It is delayed, it takes longer time, and every step of the way requires more energy. So that's why we experience symptoms, because every step of the way is difficult, is disease. So from a point of view of Russian doctors, disease is a slow adaptive reaction. Sometimes it's just slow, sometimes it can be blocked. And if adaptive reaction is blocked completely, the cycle of disease never actually gets to the zero in the end. So it gets stuck, it gets stopped at some dead point. And then we get a chronic disease. Because then the body tries the program again and tries the program again, and it's stuck and it's stuck and it's stuck. And we get relapses of chronic diseases which resemble each other very much. It's because the body cannot move the program of adaptive reaction, cannot finalize it. What we are talking in our field of adaptive medicine is that disease has to live its life through. And every alternative practitioner knows it. You cannot stop and undo the program. It's like you cannot undo the pregnancy. Disease has to go through the full cycle, and only if it does, then the program can disappear. So that, with that in mind, disease can unhappen if we improve communication in the system, if we have a system with more energy, if coherence is restored, then disease can unhappen. Now, how our nature, when we didn't have the electronic devices, did that? It did it by the way of systemic communication, systemic interactions. Mother Nature is wise, and it provided us with a mechanism to restore our coherence. When we are not well, we turn for help to other living systems. We hug a sick child, we take a pet, we do something with another system which at this point is more coherent than us, more structured, stronger. And maybe tomorrow it will be the other way around. They will be stronger than us. So there is no someone is higher than the other. It's systemic interactions. That's kind of the scheme how it happens. Incoherent system A meets coherent system B, structured. They get together, they form a unity, they blend. In order to blend, system B mirrors system A for easier blend, so they understand each other. Then they blend, and the stronger system works kind of a tuning fork for the weaker system. They blend their energy, they form a new unit. New unit strives to achieve the state of coherence, AB. Both of them achieve now a state of coherence, what the system A could not do on its own. Now it can do. And in the end, they can disconnect, and each of them become coherent again. It resembles a healing session for you. When you as a healer do something to the other system, you blend your energy field, which is stronger and more coherent, with the incoherent field of your client. You, together with them, you go through the restructuring, reorganization, and then you can disconnect. They feel better, you feel better, because you don't feel worse because you are both coherent. Well, you can feel worse if you are not quite well and you get the incoherencies. Sometimes that happens, but that's your skill as a healer, to be able to keep the state of coherence if you are dealing with incoherent system. And these are actually the examples of systemic interaction or systemic interactive medicine. Any kind of hands-on healing or laying hands, systemic interaction. Massage therapy, when you have direct physical connection with other system, systemic interactive medicine. So that would be ideal systemic interactive medicine when you have a blend on a physical level, when you have blend on a mental, emotional level, and also on a spiritual level. Well, the devices cannot do spiritual or emotional or mind level, but that's your skill as a healer. That's where you come in. But the physical level, you cannot blend with the body of your client if you're alone. But you can if you have the machine. So, that's the whole thing, was to explain to you what actually the device that Russian invented is. And Russian invented the device called the Scenar. Scenar stands for Self-Controlled Energy Neuroadaptive Regulator, which is an adaptive electrical stimulator. Adaptive makes the whole difference. Adaptive means that the machine reads the feedback from the body and adapts to the body, not the other way around. It does not require the body to adapt to the machine, which most of the devices in the health field do, as you know. This is basically one of the, well, probably only one technology that actually adapts to the body and constantly reading feedback from the body, constantly changing itself to match the body. So, what is happening here? Systemic interactions. Now, a practitioner can connect with a client on a psychological level, on a mental level, if you have time or will, on a spiritual level, and do whatever you need to do, what machine cannot. At the same time, the machine can be an ideal connector between you and the body of your client. So instead of laying hands on your client, you let the machine do the job. So the device was called the Scenar, and I just want to show you one example of what that can do for regeneration. This is the example of a small child, a one-year-old child, who experienced an osteomyelitis of the shoulder bone. So there were supposed to be a head of the shoulder bone, there is nothing. It was an infection going for a very long time, and the child was experiencing probably 5 or 6 surgeries done just to remove the pieces of the bone that keep, coming up. You know what osteomyelitis is, it was infection. So destruction was complete and no function in the arm. So they started treating with the device Scenar, and that was kind of consecutive stages of the process. So 3 months later, a little bit of something started growing. 8 months later, little sprouts of something started coming up. But keep in mind, the child is growing. He is only 1 year old, right? So the bone is growing too. How the body cannot regenerate the bone as it was at 1 year old. So the child is growing. So it didn't grow the bone right away. It started growing little bits and pieces of it. Keep going, keep going. 1 year, 7 months old. 2 years, 1 month. And here we go. The bone is back to as it should be. So that's the final result. Complete regeneration of the shoulder bone. A regeneration to the level of the size that it's supposed to be at 2 years old, not as it was at 1 year old. And that's what it was, then what it became, and that's a child. So now full, complete restoration of the function and the structure. Function went first in this case. He actually restored the function, and he could do everything with his arm long before the bone itself was formed. It was no structure to support the function, and yet you cannot tell it to 1 year old. So he could do everything. He could hang, he could, do the throwing of the toys. So that was the case of the complete restoration. Now, since then, a long time passed. That was actually a long time ago, as you can see, 2004. And the technology Scenar, which I told you about, evolved into something else, the technology called Cosmotic, which we have like high-tech energy devices. And about that technology and other technologies that supports regeneration even more, I'm going to tell you tomorrow in the continuation of this talk. But right now is just to show you what these technologies can do if you approach them from the right angle. Interesting? Well, thank you very much for your attention. I appreciate the audience. And if you are with me tomorrow we will go through other technologies and of course through the Cosmotic and the differences between them.